another episode of From the Shed End podcast with myself, TDOT. And I'm always joined by Theo. How you doing?
All good, yeah. Eventful last 48 hours in the world of football once again, but I'm glad the right thing's been done, which we'll cover later. But yeah, I'm good. Sun's still shining, can't complain. But yeah, we're good.
Yeah. And definitely been an eventful couple of days, obviously, since we last spoke, which was Monday, which has, definitely changed the dynamics of football, I think, for the rest of our living days anyway. I don't think since I've been watching football, I've ever witnessed a weekend or 72 hours of what we had, over those last couple of days. But it's been crazy, which I'm sure, like you say, we'll touch on later on today. But let's take it back to before I do that, as always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram from the Shed End, all one word. As always, give us a like, a follow, let us know your thoughts, and definitely just engage with us. That's what we want. So let's move over to Brighton and the game that we thought we were going to win. I'm pretty sure I said 2 or 3-0, which was a bit ambitious looking back. But what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, like you, I thought we'd win it comfortably. I thought 3-0, I think, was my prediction. It's almost like you forgot there was a game happening on Tuesday night after all the events that happened, but there was a game of football, and it was actually quite an important game in the end, following the news. So very disappointing 0-0 draw. I thought it was quite a lackluster performance, especially when you compare it to the City game on Saturday, where we kind of looked up for it. This seemed like the complete contrary. I think we were almost lucky, if anything, to get a point out of it. I think Tuchel kind of summed it up perfectly in his post-match interview. He said that the players didn't look physically ready or mentally ready as well. Whether that's the news, don't know what was going through the players' heads when they were on the team bus going to Stamford Bridge. So maybe that definitely had an impact on their performance. I thought there was a lack of leadership in the team as well. I think, when you drop Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta, who are probably your captain and your vice captain, there seemed to be no kind of real leadership. When you're going into the last 10 to 20 minutes of that game and you're pushing for that goal, there didn't seem to be that player that, would drive the players up the pitch like Aspi does, or give them instructions or guidance, which I thought was really, really best when you don't have Aspi or Silva on the pitch. And as well, I'm a huge fan of Tuchel, but I did question some of his tactics in this game. I think the last 10 minutes, I was kind of looking at the formation. It wasn't making sense to me. You could see James, I think, was left back. Christensen was right back. No idea what Hudson-Odoi was playing. He was switching from the left to the right. Mount played as a centre midfielder, which isn't his best position, I feel. He was playing alongside Jorginho. And I think Giroud came on way too late. When you're pushing for that winning goal, you need to bring him on earlier. And he's not only a player that can get you a goal, but he's also a really tall player who can defend set pieces. So I thought he should have been introduced at least around the 60th minute mark.
Yeah.
So, very disappointing 0-0 performance. I was really confident, especially with our record against Brighton, the performance against City, but very disappointed only to take a point away from it. And that means that the game against West Ham on Saturday, which we'll touch upon later on, is even more important now.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I do think a lot of the build up to that game. So the fact that the coach wasn't allowed to get into the stadium on time, and even prior to that, obviously we played an important game, obviously, at the weekend before all the news broke. So you've got to wonder what was going on in the players' minds prior to that as well, prior to the game kicking off on Tuesday. And I think it was just a combination of things. I think, like you say, Tuchel came out and he did say it did impact not just the players but himself. And I think a lot of football fans sometimes forget that that football players are human beings, so they're not robots, and things will impact them. Just like the uproar up and down the country from football fans, it must be the same for football players who are almost involved in it a lot more than we are. So in terms of the performance, I thought it was just I don't know if it was a game too soon. Excuse me. I think it almost reminded me of Tuchel's first game, the Wolves game. It was had very similar feeling that, we weren't going to get a goal. We were just doing everything sort of right to an extent. I do think we were quite costly with the ball. in terms of, I think, Jorginho at times, and I remember Havertz. He had some brilliant chances. There was a good chance for Zuma. I think in the first half, it was a brilliant shot. It just needed a deflection. To be honest, it needed someone to just to give a bit of a touch and deflect it away from the goalkeeper. But in terms of the performance, it wasn't the Chelsea that we've been watching over the last 16, 17 games. It was a very a poor performance. But you have to remember, I mean, we've played some really big games the week before. Obviously the Porto game and a big game against Man City. So I do think, although there was changes made to the squad, that also probably plays a factor into that as well. I just wanted to ask you about your thoughts on Kepa being in goal and retaining the goalkeeper position, because he hasn't conceded under Tuchel. I know he hasn't played as many games as Mendy, but he still hasn't conceded, which is obviously a plus for him and for the club as well.
Yeah, in our last episode, when we were talking about the possible lineup and changes, as soon as we ended the episode, I thought to myself, you know what, there's a big chance that Kepa starts this game, like he did it for the Newcastle one following his clean sheet against Barnsley, I think it was, in the FA Cup. So there was going to be a strong chance that Tuchel plays him again following his clean sheet against City at Wembley. So I thought he didn't set a foot wrong again. He was great. He looks a lot more confident now, quite a lot more dominant in the penalty box, catching balls comfortably, not spilling, easy shots like maybe he was doing towards the back end of last season. So I think it was the right decision from Tuchel. When you've got a keeper that's just come off the back end of a clean sheet and he's full of confidence, you do play him again. And as you said, I think it's 5 clean sheets in his 5 appearances under Tuchel. I think Barnsley, Newcastle, Sheffield, City, and now Brighton. So I think I'm happy to see this, because I think he looks like he's enjoying his football as well, which is a good sign. Like you can see from his social media, how he's dealing with his social media. I think there was a period where he wasn't allowing people to interact with his tweets, I think, or reply to his tweets, whereas now he is. So I think he's a lot more happy now to kind of, accept criticism, but also, be willing to put in those performances that are, will not really force criticism from the fans. So if he starts again in our next performance game at the London Stadium against West Ham, I'd be happy. I think he's a great keeper. He looks happy. He looks confident. And I think he's the right keeper to challenge Mendy for that spot in the starting 11. So
yeah, I agree. I just wanted to ask as well, because obviously we dropped. It feels like a defeat to say lost, but we drew the game. Do you feel that was obviously a good opportunity for us to get into the? I think we would have gone third if we'd won the game. So, what would you have done differently, I suppose, in terms of, like you mentioned, around Giroud probably coming on a bit earlier, but do you just put it down to overall fatigue and the fact that there was ongoing issues away from the pitch and the team? Do you put it just down to that, or a mentality thing for the players?
Definitely fatigue. You could see that the players weren't playing like they did against City, like they did at Selhurst Park a week or two ago. So I think you can put it down to fatigue. There is always going to be those performances where you don't fully show up, where you're not 100% there, like at Elland Road, where we drew 0-0 with Leeds, the game against Wolves, which that you spoke about, the 0-0 at Stamford Bridge, possibly even the kind of dull draw that we had against Southampton, where we should have won, seeing Southampton's form. So I think there's always going to be these results. But again, if you really want to be challenging for a top 4 spot, these are the type of games that you should be winning, and you should be winning quite comfortably. I think tactically, definitely, you look at Havertz, he hasn't been free scoring this season. Werner either. Pulisic slowly starting to find some form, but that's when you really need a real prolific goal scorer in front of goal. Giroud's proven that he can do that, maybe a bit less than the Tuchel, but around the Christmas period, he was scoring a lot, getting us some valuable points. So I would have brought him on earlier. I mentioned maybe around the 60th minute mark. But I think fatigue, it really looked like fatigue, and the players weren't mentally there as well. So
yeah,
I think that's kind of the things you can pinpoint that maybe indicated, we want playing to our full potential. But I'm expecting a huge change around in the game on Saturday. I think, we've had more time to rest now. We've realized we've dropped 2 points there. Now it's time to, get those 3 points against the team that, if they take points from us, they can easily overtake. I mean, they will overtake us, and they will maybe even clinch that top 4 spot. So there's a lot to play for on Saturday.
Yeah, and I know we've mentioned the European Super League a few times already during this episode. So just wanted to get your thoughts really on the events. Really, I suppose when we spoke on Monday, um, so much has happened. I'm just trying to make sure I get this right. So I think on Monday we were still in the European Super League. Um, I think we'd already made the announcement. I think the Sunday eve, well, Sunday late Sunday night, that we were going to be entering into it. What's your thoughts? Obviously, now that upon reflection, we've had a bit of time to digest what's happened, and obviously, there's fans that are angry at the club. There's fans that are just angry at the boards, the hierarchy. But what's your thoughts overall on the whole situation?
I thought on when the news came out on Sunday and when we recorded episode 5 on Monday, I was disgusted. I was disappointed in the club. I was disappointed in the what football was looking like it was going to become.
Mm,
I kind of went on a bit of a rant in that episode, but following what happened on Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening, I feel a lot more proud, particularly of the fan base, more than the way the club's managed, but the fan base of how they've reacted, the fans across the world of football, how the smaller, when I say smaller clubs, it's those clubs outside maybe the traditional big six or the richer clubs in the Premier League, how they've reacted as well and the statements that they've released.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, very proud of the fan base because it really shows that fans are valued, especially by clubs like Chelsea when they see that the repercussions that it has on them and how they gathered in. I don't know how many that went around Stamford Bridge, maybe 200, 300, maybe more, I think. But a lot of fans showed up, and I was really happy scenes. Obviously the scenes of jubilation when they kind of when the news was announced that we were pulling out of the Super League or we were going to proceed with the paperwork to withdraw. It almost seemed like we were celebrating a goal or a trophy. So it's
yeah,
almost like it's a victory for football, it felt. And I was also quite happy to hear, I'm not happy, I'm still disgusted by how Chelsea kind of, signed up for this tournament. But there were also rumours that we were one of the clubs that wasn't too keen on joining, but we kind of, along with Man City, I think, but we were scared to be left out. And that was
yeah,
the main reason why we joined. So, that kind of says, maybe, we weren't too keen on the idea. I can't see Abramovich being too keen on the idea myself, nor did Chet, but I think it was more maybe a Bruce Buck kind of decision. So, but yeah, it's a weird one. I think I say it's a victory for football. All 6 English clubs have withdrawn from the Super League now, but I don't think this is the end. I don't think it's the end. I think there's talks now of an English Super League with some Scottish teams. There's talks. I mean, it's not talks, but it's official now. I think 2024 is going to be a new Champions League format,
mm,
going from 32 teams to 36 teams, with each team playing a minimum of 10 games. So there's definitely going to be changes to football. So I don't think this is the end, but
yeah.
for now, at least, I feel like we've kept some kind of tradition and we've let the fans speak, and the fans' voice has been really valued and really powerful. So definitely on Tuesday night, I felt proud to be a Chelsea fan. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, and I sort of think there's always been talk of um, a combination of things. I think a lot of the time it's normally to do with Rangers or Celtic joining the Premier League, which just doesn't make sense to me. But that's another conversation for another day. Um, it does seem like we were the club that were very reluctant to sign up alongside City, which I've heard, from various different sources and outlets that we were um, late to the party. We didn't really have a seat at the table from the very start, which would make sense to me to an extent, because I do feel like um, you know not necessarily for the fact that I mean, it doesn't seem like it does seem like the American owners. I was trying not to say that, but it does seem like the American owners um, were steering this a lot. They were the ones that were orchestrating a lot of it, and you can even almost sense that it was to build a franchise and to make it more commercial financially for whatever reason. But it just does go against everything. I mentioned it on the last episode that we had the Forbes interview with Roman Abramovich, and it just goes against everything that he believes in. I know he's developed Chelsea Village, a lot, under the bridge, I think is still there. Is that still the venue that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's linked there as well? And I know he's attended, nights there himself. So it did go against a lot of what Roman Abramovich is trying to make, or has made Chelsea Football Club. So it didn't make sense to me. But I do understand, if there's 5 different clubs who are going to go and make £1 million deals,
Mhm.
it obviously financially it would make sense for Chelsea to join that. I do believe Bruce. I mean, I've been reading quite a lot into it, but I do believe Bruce Brook, from a Chelsea perspective, was the sort of head of
Mhm.
this deal and trying to get it over the line. It, you know, there's talks of, obviously, again, in the press and other media outlets, that there's been talks with the other Premier League clubs around having the chief executives from the 6 clubs to resign. Do you think that's the right thing to do, and that's how we can move on from this fiasco?
I mean, we've definitely seen some of those figures of power being dethroned recently, likes of Ed Woodward in Italy. I think Agnelli resigned in Italy. I don't know. I think there's a lot of, Man U and Liverpool, their owners aren't particularly liked.
Hmm.
But as you said, I think it's these kind of American owners trying to kind of turn these football clubs into franchises, if anything. And I wouldn't want to kind of. I think as we spoke about, Abramovich, I think above all is a fan of Chelsea. He's not just someone pumping money into the club. He's a fan of the club. He wants us to succeed. He
Yeah.
celebrates trophies like any fan would celebrate trophies. And when he saw maybe the backlash and the repercussions that the fans kind of demonstrated, I think he was probably the first one to pull the plug. But I think Sergio Perez is the main kind of one that kind of wanted this done. And I was reading an interview of him this morning. He's, to put it quite blunt, he's deluded. He's deluded. He was saying that only 40 fans showed up to the Chelsea
I've just
protests.
read that then, literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was not the case at all. He was saying that no one between the ages of 16 and 24 watch football anymore, which is all you have to do is look at the people that turned up to the protests at Stamford Bridge. And I
Yeah.
think the kind of age demographic there was the average age was around 20 or so. He was comparing, saying that if you're a tennis fan, you won't watch Nadal against a smaller player, but you'll watch Nadal against Federer. And that's why people would watch the European Super League. And, it's all of this talk, I think, saying, wanting, I think because Real Madrid have suffered a lot as a club for during the last 2 years of COVID and the lockdowns and not having fans and obviously pumping a lot of money into their new stadium. So I think the main reason he wanted to go ahead with it was to get money to sign either Haaland or Mbappe.
Yeah.
So I don't think he can afford them right now. That's what kind of people were saying on Twitter, and I was reading articles. So I think he's the main kind of, villain in this, let's put it like that. And, and a lot of talk now wanting him to resign. I don't know. I don't really have friends who are Real Madrid fans or what their thoughts are on it with Sergio Perez. But I think from kind of, the football world, he's the villain, the ones that they feel is responsible for this, the one who kind of, orchestrated it. So yeah, if people like him can resign, then that would be a kind of, a stepping stone. I think it would be progress. I think it would be another victory for the football world as well.
Yeah. And I think as well, a lot of the fans that I've been speaking to, they have to remember, and they've reiterated it as well, that we don't support the board. The board will change over the course of time. It has done before our generation, and I'm sure it will do beyond our generation as well. I think what we do is support the club itself as a club. Players move on, managers move on, but the ultimate thing is that we always support the club. And like yourself, I was, like I said on the other episode, I couldn't sleep Sunday night. I was awake probably at least until 1 o'clock in the morning, just reading and just disgusted, I think. So, I'm sure I wasn't alone in that. It's strange to see that. I think it's only, is it Barcelona and Real Madrid that are still left in the Super League? I don't think
Barcelona, Real Madrid, I think Juventus, maybe.
I think they've come out now. I think it's
have
just,
they?
yeah. So I think it's just the two Spanish giants who, for obvious reasons, would love a European Super League. They're not, a bit strapped for cash. So I'm sure they'd love, they'd love to have that. But do you ever think that Chelsea fans will, excuse me, will ever get over this? There'll ever be a moment where it's just do you remember that day that weekend when we nearly went into a Super League? Will it get like that, or do you think there'll always be that kind of backlash now? And I guess that goes for all the 6 clubs as well.
I mean, I think it was a very historic and revolutionary date. I think it's the type of event that I'll talk to my grandkids about. The time the Chelsea, the fans kind of protested and the fans were heard, and change happened. But at the same time, as I said as well, I think there's still a possibility that some kind of tournament like this is still organised in the near future. I don't think it's the end of this. I don't think the fans have fully forgiven the board. Like, I think Chelsea were quite lucky with how we treat our kind of senior management, the figures of power of our club. I think Abramovich has particularly liked Marino as well, and Bruce Buck. Until this moment, I never really had any kind of arguments to why he wasn't liked. But I think other clubs, particularly, I think this is just the beginning of how they're going to react to their chairman, their kind of their owners. So, but yeah, I think we'll forgive. I think when fans are allowed back into the stadium, I think we saw the kind of the songs that they were singing at the protest. It was nothing malicious. It was super Frankie Lampard songs, Fabregas's Magic,
Yeah,
which is nice to hear. It's quite peaceful protest, not violent, but just almost showing we're Chelsea, we love our club, we won't stop loving our club,
yeah,
but you've got to kind of respect us, you've got to kind of listen to us, but I think as Chelsea fans, I think we forgive quite easily. So yeah, I don't think there's any kind of negative feelings anymore, I'd hope.
yeah. And I think that was a key thing that you mentioned around the fact that the protest was just that. It wasn't, I'm pretty sure, and I know I said this to you offline, that, hopefully it doesn't get to the point where it becomes a protest with other motives and reasons to be out and about, especially during, these kind of pandemic moments that we're having. But it was, from what I got to see, got to see a few videos and pictures, and it just looked like a coming together of fans who actually want the right resolution, which happened eventually. And I think there was a moment where the news was filtering through, the crowds of people, and it's almost like you said, it was almost like Box Park, that sort of that moment where it's like a bit of a moment in it was the World Cup, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah,
And the Box Park, and everyone's just throwing stuff around in like euphoric moments. So it was good to see, and I think we hopefully that is the back end of it now. I'm pretty sure it'll be a talking point for the rest of this season, but I think once the Euros kicks in, hopefully that is the end of it, and we can move on from that. But what a weekend, what a strange weekend. It just
yeah. There
didn't
was a
sit right.
part where I thought the Chelsea Real Madrid clash would be pointless.
Yeah,
So now that there's a bit of significance behind that game, it's a nice 2 weeks to look forward to as a Chelsea fan as well.
yeah. And again, good point you've mentioned, because I think there is still a meeting going ahead tomorrow
Mm.
with a decision to see what happens to the clubs that are still in the Champions League semi-final. And if I'm not mistaken, bar PSG, I think it's
Mm.
all the other three clubs, isn't it? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes out of that. If I'm honest, I can't really see at this late stage that they're going to kick the clubs out, for financial reasons, contractual reasons as well, sponsorship reasons.
Mm.
There'd be a lot of, yeah, I think it might maybe just hefty fines. I think that's what the roads that I can see going down will just be, that there'll be loads of fines being dished out to these clubs. Bit of a smack on the wrist moment, and it'll just have to be brushed under the carpet. I think there's too much at stake to kick any of these clubs out. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that. But like you say, 2 weeks time, we could be talking about Chelsea as well. In a couple of weeks time, not two, but we could be talking about Chelsea as Champions League finalists again, which, I wouldn't turn my nose up at, be a brilliant achievement, I think, this season for us. So yeah, hopefully that's good riddance to European Super League. We don't have to think about that again. And it was a silly mistake, and we can move on, hopefully. Big game coming up on Saturday. Must-win game. Feels like a final in itself, actually. When I was looking at the remaining fixtures, this is probably one of our games that we really do have to win. We can't afford to not beat West Ham. What's your thoughts on the game going into it after Tuesday?
As you said, it's a must-win. It really is a must-win. West Ham, they've been kind of going through this, they've had a great season, particularly since January. I think Jesse Lingard coming in has been great for them. He's been, he's found his form again. He's scoring. I'm not sure did he come off injured against Newcastle? I'm trying to think. Uh,
I think he had a knock. I think he had a bit of a
yeah,
knock. Yeah.
whether he's recovered from that. But I think it's been a funny season as a Chelsea fan, because as soon as you gain a bit of confidence, you get a result that just knocks you down a bit. So like the 0-0 against Brighton, like the 0-0 of Leeds, like the 1-1 of Southampton. I mean, these are the kind of recent fixtures under Tuchel, at least. But I think what we've have seen under Tuchel is that in these big games we do perform. Paquitos, it's Champions League first legs, like against Atletico, where we kind of kept that clean sheet away from home. Porto 2-0 as well. We beat Spurs, Liverpool away from home and kept clean sheets. So if we treat this game like one of those big games, which it is in the end, it is, as you said, it could be a final in itself, it feels like a final. Then I think, if the Chelsea players treat it that way and, they go into it thinking, 3 points or nothing, then I really think we should be winning, and we should be winning, with kind of a dominant, comfortable performance like we have, and we're used to as Chelsea fans. When you kind of going into a season wanting to challenge for the league, these are the games where you want to win. You win comfortably. So, but I don't think our record's great. West Ham away, I don't think we've won there since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a tricky game. I think their centre back Craig Dawson got sent off against Newcastle, so he'll be suspended. He's been quite good on loan from Watford this season. I think we'll rotate our squad again. I think as much as I'd like to see, I always say this every week, but as much as I'd like to see Havertz as a false nine, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think this is the perfect game for Giroud. I keep saying I want to see Giroud start, but I really think this is the perfect game. West Ham have some really tall centre-backs in Diop and Ogbonna. So I think Giroud would be perfect. We saw him when he came on against Brighton. He had that one chance where it was just cut to him and he just tried to shoot it, I think, on his left foot and just missed the goal.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very difficult game. But as you said, it could be make or break for our chances of making top four. So I really hope we win. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no, and I think it'll be interesting because I think Liverpool play 12:30 Saturday as well. So I think they're on 53 points. So a win, I think they've got Newcastle. So that's another big game. But I'm pretty sure, current form kind of tells you that Liverpool should win that game. So we'll know by 5:30 what we're dealing with. Liverpool will leapfrog us if we don't win. So we need to focus on this game now. Treat it like a cup final. It'd be interesting. I think, like yourself, it's not looking like Tammy Abraham's in Tuchel's plans. So you got to look at maybe Olivier Giroud. I say that again, like I say this every single week, but I don't want to see too much tinkering to a side that is playing really well. I don't think playing like bringing on a Callum Hudson-Odoi and then putting Reece James left back is going to work against the West Ham. I think it's a backward step. We really need to be on the front foot with this game. Very similar to the City game. We've got to play with conviction, and we've got to take our chances, which is what we didn't do against Brighton. We had enough chances to score. We played well in spells, but we just weren't good enough. And I think West Ham will punish us. Brighton, I said as well, Brighton, get their chances, they just don't take them. The problem with West Ham is they actually do take them. So we've got to be clinical. We really do have to be clinical. Now, I think you're right. I think we've not got the best record at West Ham. I'm sure they beat us 3-2 last season in this reverse fixture last season. I'm pretty sure it was 3-2. So we've got to go in there with the intention of playing the best football that we can. We can't really afford to miss out on top four this season. So I know we're in the semi-finals of the Champions League, but that doesn't guarantee you Champions League football. So we've got to focus on getting a good start, playing the right football. I'd ask you a question. Would you play Billy Gilmore in a game where, because I mean, he's someone that I think would do really well against a team like West Ham?
Yeah, I mean, Billy Gilmore, I've said in the previous episodes, he's proven that he can play against these big clubs, or at the top level of English football. I think if he does play, he'll do an amazing job. But I think Kante was rested against Brighton, so I wouldn't be surprised as well if Tuchel just slots Kante back into the team alongside Jorginho, because Jorginho is it's fair to say I think he's been the best player since Tuchel's taken charge, or one of the best players at least. So it'd be a very, unless he's really focusing on that. I think it's Real Madrid the following week.
I think so.
Yeah, so maybe he's got that in the back of his mind as well. So he could potentially rest Jorginho for that. So Billy Gilmore should be in his thinking for this game. I think, and as I said, if he does start, I'm confident he could do a good job.
Yeah. What are we going to go for? What are we going to do for the predictions? Because I think I was doing all right a few weeks ago, but I've sort of hit a wall at the moment. So I'll let you go first.
I've been confident since kind of with these predictions since we've been guessing, but I'm going to be a bit pessimistic this time and say 1-1. I think it's going to be 1-1. Yeah. It'd be a big win, but if we do get the 3 points, then it'll feel even better. So
yeah, I'm going to go for 2-1. I do think West Ham have got enough in the team to trouble us and to score as well. So, but I do think we know what's at stake. We know what we've got to get out of this game, and if Tuchel has, which he has done in the past, he's been able to get the best out of the team, even when we haven't really been playing our best football. I do think he's got it in him to get this team playing right on Saturday. He's got no other excuse not to. We played poor against Brighton, but we played really well against Porto and City the week before. We've not been playing bad under Tuchel at all. We've had blips apart from the West Brom game, and obviously the Wolves game. There's the ones that really stick out for me, but we've got to beat West Ham. We really do have to beat them. It'll be interesting if he does start Havertz. My gut tells me he's probably going to put Werner in that position. Maybe with Giroud coming on at some point, but it just for me, keep the defense as it was beforehand. Maybe put Ben Chilwell back at the left wing back position. The three centre backs I'd keep as is. I wouldn't start Kepa, albeit he's had some really good games under Tuchel. I put Mendy back in goal, and I think he'll do that. I think he'll put Mendy back in goal. I'd be surprised if he suddenly drops Mendy and sticks with Kepa for the remaining part of the season, because it just wouldn't really make sense to me. But we'll have to see. So I'm going to go 2-1. Chelsea, obviously, not West Ham. And yeah, we'll have to see. 5:30 Saturday. Make or break the weekend. I hate Saturday games in the evening. Yeah, because it can ruin
ruins your Saturday evening.
Ruins your Saturday evening, and it ruins my Sunday, and normally my Monday morning as well. It takes a while to get out of the system, but it'd be interesting game. I just wanted to talk to you about some of the memorable games that we kind of. I say games, but I've got one that I want to talk about. But I wanted to get your views first of what you thought as a memorable game as a Chelsea fan.
I mean, I've been really fortunate to have been to many Chelsea games at Stamford Bridge and also away from home. My bedroom's just over there, and it's literally covered. The walls are plastered with Chelsea tickets from all the games I've been to. But it's always going to be a couple of games that stand out for me. If you're kind of going for like that emotional level, that there's emotional games. You could say there's last games of the season against Sunderland, the farewells of Didier Drogba, John Terry. And I was quite emotional as a Chelsea fan being at Stamford Bridge, and when they gave their speeches at full time, as well when Fabregas came off as against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup, and he was in tears. This was his last game in English football. That was really emotional as a Chelsea fan. On a personal level, just some European away matches I've been to, even though we didn't get the results against Barcelona. I've been to the Nou Camp, which was an amazing experience. I've been to Mestalla in Valencia. I've been to the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, and I've been to the Parc des Princes in Paris. We never won actually any of those games. It was either draws or defeats. But just the experience of being abroad with the Chelsea fans was amazing. So that was really memorable on a personal level. But there's always going to be some games that stand out. I think those European comebacks, the one against Ajax last season was amazing. PSG lost the first leg 3-1, came back second leg 2-0, I think, at Stamford Bridge. Demba Ba scoring the goal. That was one of the moments I probably celebrated the goal the most in my life. A lot of my friends are PSG fans. So, French friends of mine are PSG fans, so it just felt like there was a bit of a rivalry. So going, the next day going to school and just bantering them after
Yeah,
that
yeah,
game was amazing. But I think my favorite ever game, or most memorable game that I've watched live, was probably the comeback against Napoli.
yeah,
I think it was a kind of a defining moment in our season. We played the first leg in Naples with Villas-Boas as our manager. A couple of weeks later, after a poor result against West Brom, he was sacked. Di Matteo comes in, second leg in the Champions League, 3-1 down. I think he brings all those experienced players back into the team. Terry, Lampard, Drogba, Ivanovic, players that were maybe dropped under Villas-Boas.
yeah.
And you could just tell, that's what they were playing because they loved the club. The atmosphere at Stamford Bridge that day was
I think
electric.
that was at
It was,
the Branislav Ivanovic.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
it
was
was. Yeah,
3-1 extra time. I think Drogba, Terry, and Lampard all scored in a normal time, taken to
yeah,
extra, and Ivanovic scores to make it
and
4-1. Just being
yeah,
at Stamford Bridge that day, it felt special. It felt like, we might salvage something from this season, because it was a very poor season before then. We did in the end. We won the Champions League that season,
yeah,
and it felt like we were building on some momentum as well. And yeah, just an amazing match to be. And I wrote an article, actually. I'll share it on the Twitter page after, about my experience at that game. But I think Bob Marley's song and
yeah.
Three Little Birds came on, I think, right before extra time, and it just felt like, all the pains that of the Champions League final again in Moscow,
Beforehand. Yeah,
2008, were just forgotten all of a sudden. And we were focusing on this moment. I know the 41,000 fans in Stamford Bridge were going to be behind Chelsea for the next 30 minutes of football, and it just felt special. It felt like a really memorable moment, and I
yeah.
think one of the type of games that I'll go on to talk about for a long time to my future kids, my grandsons. So yeah, really proud of that. That's definitely my memorable game.
Yeah.
What about for yourself?
Well, I've got a few. Just going back to that game though, Napoli. I'm sure Juan
Mm.
Mata got the away goal, didn't he? I think
Yeah,
in the first leg. So I vaguely remember the first leg.
yeah,
I can't remember how much I was drinking at that point, but it was probably a lot. But yeah, I think my biggest one was the 4-4 Stamford Bridge against Liverpool,
mm.
2009. I think that was. Um, I'm pretty sure I think we were 3-1 up in the first leg, and we just had a moment at Stamford Bridge, as we have done many a times before, let Liverpool back into the game. But I'm pretty sure it was Frank Lampard that scored
Mm.
the winner. I can't remember what it ended on aggregate. I'm sure it was like 7. Well, I can't
Yeah,
remember. It was like 7-2, I think, or something like that.
I
7-5.
remember Alex scoring a thunderbolt free kick.
Yeah,
That was it.
that was the game. Yeah, I think Lucas and Dirk Kuyt scored as well.
Mm.
It's a weird game, but it was probably one of the most entertaining. And I think as well, I think I was very much into going up to Liverpool at that point as well. And I'm pretty sure I watched that game in Liverpool. So it was, as you can imagine, I'm like wearing a Chelsea shirt, the only Chelsea fan really that was there. Didn't go down well. But that was a good game. I enjoyed the Bolton game. There was a 2-0
Mm.
Bolton game. That was obviously Jose Mourinho was manager. That was a good game for us as well, at the Reebok. Really good ground, really good stadium. So yeah, I enjoyed that game as well. I think Lampard got the 2 goals that day as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah,
it was a good game for us there. Obviously the 2-2 Barcelona Nou Camp. Yeah, it doesn't even need any words, does it? Really, it was. I don't know. It was such a surreal moment. I remember waking up the next day and it feeling surreal. Not like
mm.
it was the same happens at the final. I remember the next day waking up and having to actually check my phone to make sure it happened, and it wasn't a dream, because we'd been so close to it been so close to it before, like you mentioned in Moscow as well, and then just not being able to see it through. But then that moment, that season, like you mentioned as well, with Di Matteo. But I remember, I think that was a game with Ramirez, wasn't it? And he
Yeah,
chipped,
yeah.
beautiful chip. And then obviously we all know about Fernando Torres and what he did. But we
Down
were,
to 10 men. Down to
yeah,
10 men.
I was
Yeah.
just about to say we weren't favourites anyway. And I think when we went down to 10 men, Everyone was. I remember thinking, "Oh, this is it. Here we go again. We're not going to do it. We're so close, but so far away." So yeah, I remember that game being just such a monumental. I wish I'd gone to that one. I didn't get to go to that game. Um, but yeah, I can only imagine how the atmosphere was after the game. Well, before and after the game as well. It would have been electrifying. Um, Another one that obviously I kind of sticks out for me, and a very recent game, is the Europa League final, Arsenal.
Mm.
Um, because I remember getting loads of stick before the game, as you do as a Chelsea fan. You take it, but the way we played that night was special. And I
Mm.
was made up for Olivier Giroud, because I know he'd obviously got a lot of stick, and obviously the stuff that he did afterwards was justified for that. I'm sure everyone's seen the team bus moments where he's given the stick back, which rightfully so. So they're my key games I always remember, and
Yeah,
also the Di Matteo FA Cup final goal.
of course. Yeah.
That was a brilliant one, and an honourable shout out to Gianfranco Zola for his goal against Norwich, I think it was.
Norwich, back heel, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those games, I remember watching that one live as well, and we didn't have Sky Plus then. You couldn't rewind stuff and watch it back, but it was just, you had to sort of make sure he didn't just knock it in with the side of his foot. Did he actually do the back heel? And he did. So it was like, wow, okay. And if you go on YouTube, I think he visits Cobham, and he tries to reenact it as well.
Recreate it. Yeah,
I think
yeah. I've
it's
seen
with
that video.
I think it's with Graham Lasso as well. I think because obviously he was the one who assisted him in the game, but I think he does that. So it's on YouTube somewhere. It must be on the Chelsea channel, I think. So, but yeah, they're my memorable sort of moments and games where I think, wow, we've done a lot. People say we haven't got history, but we have. We've got history.
We do.
We
We
have got
do.
a
We
lot of
do.
history, but yeah, it'd be interesting. Next couple of games that we've got now. 6 games left, is it now? 6 or 7?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think it's
Got
about 6.
some big fixtures in there. Got Leicester, West Ham, City, Arsenal. So
Yeah,
it's going to be a tricky one.
yeah.
Tricky couple of games.
And as I say, going back to the West Ham game, this is why it's a must win, because I think Leicester will get. I think all the teams you just mentioned, I think they'll give us some trouble. Not to say that West Ham can't do that, but I just think we look at these games now. Um, Villa last game of the season, we watched how they played against Man City yesterday. They can cause teams trouble. I know they didn't win, but they can cause problems. We still have to go to the Etihad as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. It's going to be an interesting run into the end of the season, I should say. But as always, you can follow us on From the Shed End. That's on Twitter and Instagram, and also on YouTube. And again, we're always live stream, so please get involved, interact with us if you can. We normally do around 12 p.m. So get involved, give us your questions before or during the live stream as well. We'll happily answer them, or we'll get you involved in the conversation and discussion. And yeah, thank you for listening. I've been TDOT, and obviously thanks Theo for joining me again, as always. I'm sure we'll be back. We'll be celebrating our victory against West Ham, and we can hopefully say that we'll be back in the top 4 this time next week.
Fingers crossed.
Yep. Thanks for listening.